Yes, thank you very much.
I'd like to open up the Village Council regular, I'm looking at the wrong one. Village Council Budget Work Session meeting today, May 15, 2019 at 5:30 p.m. I show we have a full quorum. So first I need to have the adoption of the agenda.
Make a motion to
Make a motion.
adopt the agenda as presented.
Oh, wait a second. There's no item.
That's it, just the budget.
Budget work session.
I know, yeah, but I think we should still, can we, I'd prefer we went on the agenda, right? I think so.
You want to write something down there?
Yeah, I mean, the agenda title's not the meeting agenda, so I would.
Can I just add, it's not a special meeting, it's a
No.
regular meeting,
No,
so
I was just
I
gonna
make
add
a
a
motion
discussion
to,
and consideration of, yeah.
I'll second that if you want to go
Okay,
ahead.
sure, discussion and consideration of budget ordinance for year 2019 to 2020.
This isn't for the budget ordinance, this is just a
Not
work
approving it.
session.
Where
So
does,
just-
where
Isn't
does,
it part of the, this
The
is
work
just discussion of it?
Discussion, you can just say discussion.
Okay, say draft then, so that people know that it's not like we haven't called for it yet. But we're constructing it, that's what we're doing, right?
We're discussing it. We can
Yeah.
make modifications if needed.
Then just say draft here on the budget.
draft.
Further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. What do we got?
So this is, I think, maybe our third budget work session. There's not really been a whole lot changed. Actually, I don't think anything's changed since the last time y'all met, as far as your budget's concerned. Again, we've talked about the CIP for a couple of times. I don't know if y'all want to start with there because that is a basis for what's in your agenda packet as far as projects are concerned. So,
You said this is the third budget work session? Which other one have we had? I mean, besides
well,
the one-
retreat, did we have three?
no, this is
Yeah,
the
we've
third
had,
one.
this is
Yeah,
the third,
the second one.
the April the 10th one was no quorum, so you had no meeting.
So
And
the
one
second
before
one.
that, I was, yeah, that's fine.
March
So-
12th.
Actually, there was one on March 12th.
This is
And-
the third,
This
this
is
was
the
the
third.
third.
And then you
scheduled
saw it at the
one.
retreat.
I know.
Third
Thought it
schedule.
was.
This is
I
the
don't know,
third
maybe
There's no
scheduled
quorum,
budget
though.
work session.
No, at April 10th, there was no quorum. March 12th, you held a budget work session.
This is the
Okay.
third.
This is the
scheduled
third, this is
budget.
third scheduled
Yes,
one.
but that's not what
Yes.
she said. She said it was the third, and so I'm sitting here counting which other one there was.
Oh, I mean, Joe and I were at the April 10th one because we didn't know that there wasn't going to be quorum, so we listened to them talk about the budget.
Oh,
We discussed
I
it.
remember being in a three budget, this is the third budget. I remember being, I didn't realize that it was.
Nope.
No.
Well, we've had a couple of them. I don't know exactly how many we've had, but we've had some.
But we're okay,
One or
right? How
two.
many are required?
None.
I
None.
thought you
Then
were.
we're okay.
Yeah.
It was discussion,
Which
it
is
was a
me
work
and you.
session.
Because remember, we sat there and we just went over the budget again.
Yeah, you guys told us, I remember.
So do y'all want to start with the CIP? Just glance over it real quick. It's in your regular agenda as a consideration item, but
Oh, so we're doing the CIP first?
well, I just want to tell you where some of the numbers are coming from.
Is it in this packet here, or do I have to get
Pull
my?
your that back out.
Which part of that in there? I remember seeing it in there, but
Should be towards the end in your.
unfinished.
It's in unfinished number 2.
Yep.
We've
First
moved it,
thing,
but y'all
first
probably
item.
haven't changed your stuff around yet. Keep going, Robert. That's it, like big, thick. Pull. Yep, more. Right there, right there.
Oh, my phone's off. And the
Talk
alarm's
about the
off.
print.
So, we've talked about this a few times as far as capital planning is concerned, and this is basically our 5-year plan. I want to emphasize that this is sheerly a plan. This is not a binding document. So this is not something that we would say, okay, y'all have approved it. We're definitely going with these numbers. You're locking into these numbers. It's sheerly a plan. Typically what happens with these CIPs is you develop them in December-ish. You approve them sometime in January, February, and that's what your staff uses as a basis for what they put in the budget. So, and I'm going to kind of do high-level numbers here. On the very first page, which is the total page, if you look down at the very total bottom, it says 108,600. That's your total number of dollars that are requested in fiscal year 1920. If you-
Or capital improvements.
For capital improvements.
Okay.
So if you can pull out your big packets,
Mhm.
turn to page 3. I'm sorry,
And the one in general
it's planning, where's planning?
planning and zoning.
5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Turn to page 5. It'll say planning and zoning at the very top.
Here, and I have it up on the screen too.
Okay.
Okay.
So you'll see down on your CIP, you see $20,000 for a UDO. It's either a UDO or the beginning of an ordinance rewrite, whichever one we decide to do, it's all in the same, basically.
Where are you?
I'm using the digital one and I haven't found it yet, just.
Chris, can you
Here,
hear
it's
it?
right there, right here.
Oh,
Yeah, but at the
Alright.
very top, what's the?
So it's the planning and zoning, it's the planning and zoning page.
Urban.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
See,
It says
planning and
ordinance
zoning.
rewrite.
Ordinance
Okay.
rewrite.
Yeah, and it's called, under professional services on that page, it's called ordinance rewrite.
Alright, so we're on this one.
Okay.
Is that?
I know.
No, it's just me, I can't read.
That's salaries, professional services.
Scroll up.
It's under professional services, it's like the 5th one down.
Here, are you on the planning and zoning page? Planning and zoning, professional service, see ordinance rewrite there? And see the 20,000?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think we were looking for the top. Yeah, that's right,
Yeah,
planning and
that's right.
zoning, okay.
So I just want to point out that in your CIP on that cover sheet, if you'll see Unified Development Ordinance, $20,000, that's exactly what that number is. So when y'all look at this CIP and you say, these projects look great, we're gonna go with it, that's what we're doing, is we're taking those numbers and we're plugging it into the budget.
They're
Okay.
already in there.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that's in here for fiscal year 1920 that you see here is in the budget, 100%. Majority of your costs, or if you see, the majority of them are in your Parks and Rec, your tree removal, your lakeside corridor, your roundabout, hardscape or landscape, whatever it is they decide to do, and then a Greenway master plan, which is $88,600. If you go to your big agenda packet and you turn the page, one
Go to the
more,
last page.
Last page?
Should be the last page.
Okay.
the very bottom, you'll see,
Use that clip. Oh, I don't know the clip. Can I have that clip? Thank you. I'm clicking my pen and I can hear it, so.
Okay, last page.
Sorry,
What are we looking for?
sorry.
she's showing him, so I'll let them get caught up.
And that's
What page?
Sorry, what page?
The very, the very last page,
Okay,
total 88.
under what item?
it's Parks and Rec.
through that one.
Or, I'm sorry, it's called cultural and resources, or cultural and recreation.
Okay.
Cul-
But what's-
Culture and
What's the
recreation.
first column line, that'll help me.
Greenway, loop, and park projects.
Okay, yeah.
You'll see park projects proposed is 88,600. That's what that number is what's in that CIP. So,
And that includes tree removal, lakeside corridor, hardscape, greenways, and ordinance?
Yep,
No,
No,
not ordinance,
not
not
ordinance.
ordinance, everything
That's
else.
Master plan.
the master plan.
88.
What's the 91?
Because see, this
88,
is the
600.
108 minus
That
the
was from
20.
the
Okay.
top.
Greenway
That's
Loop
operating
Park.
expenses.
Say again?
You said
Hold on.
go to Greenway Loop and Park.
No.
Yeah.
Culture in your, right here,
But
the last page. He's
I have
on
the benefit
culture
of
and
Chris
recreation.
next to me.
I know, I'm like,
Okay.
Chris,
should
See
put her
this park
between us.
project?
Uh-huh.
That 88.6?
Oh,
So
see,
that is coming from the CIP.
got it.
That's the exact same number that you see
That's
here.
funny, I have had all those numbers highlighted in here, but I didn't know what for. Now I
So
know.
that, everything that you see there for
Okay.
1920,
Yep.
those are your numbers that make up your budget, basically. So those are your major projects for next year.
Nick, do you understand the 91,350?
Yeah, that number always, that top line always throws me off, but okay, I get.
I just have one question on that,
Mhm.
and that is just the Lakeside Corridor. I missed that meeting. What
Okay.
is that? What is,
So,
just
It's the shelter
yeah, it's the picnic
at the
shelter.
park?
Mhm.
at the park.
Okay.
And actually,
Is it where the old house was?
Yes.
Okay,
Over the
so
slab?
So if you have questions about the specific
Yeah.
projects,
when do you want us to do that?
they have their own detail sheets behind the
So
cover
you want-
sheets.
You want us to talk about the specific projects?
Unless y'all have overall
Expect
questions,
nothing less of you.
high-level questions, any?
Cool.
High-level questions on
No, 'cause
anything else?
well,
Okay.
except for today's coordination, I get the coordination.
Yeah, I just wanted to show y'all how they all correlate. So if ever, I know we'll go through the projects and talk about them, but the gist is, if you're okay with the CIP, we put it in the budget just as presented. That's where the discussion would lie in terms of major projects.
And big picture, you're telling us that doesn't mean we're locked into
That's correct.
2021,
Yep.
21, 22.
Because what this
Maybe
is,
Council.
that's right. Because what this is basically, when we look at 2021, we're gonna look at this plan and we're gonna say, yeah, we may have the money to do it, we may not. We may have something that comes up, we may have a big water main bust or something that we've gotta pay for, and
But
we're gonna have to take money away.
But tonight, if we had passed the budget, we would be locking into all the capital improvements in 1920.
Correct.
Yes.
Now, I will say, if there's thresholds that these follow
Mhm.
under our procurement policy, we still have to adhere to those. So, and I don't know what the thresholds are off the top of my head, but let's just hypothetically
Right.
say this master plan requires y'all to make the appropriation on the vendor. We would still have to go through that for y'all's
And
approval.
get 3 bid, or
Yeah,
3
yeah.
QFRs or whatever.
And I'm pretty sure the 40,000 would be that threshold where y'all have to select the vendor once we get the 3 quotes.
Okay.
Now, when you say we're locked into the capital, we put something in for 2019-20, and if we needed that money for somewhere else, we could still take it out.
You could still take it as long as we hadn't moved forward with
What I'm
it
saying
yet.
is, yeah, it's not locked. It's not like Powerball funds that they're
Yes,
locked in.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
So before we even had bid opening yesterday, I had that lakeside corridor. I just wanted to bring it up
Mhm.
because and maybe even clarification, because on the Village Hall project,
Mhm.
we had the farmer's market cover. And it wasn't necessarily priced for, but that was the plan, right? Was to
Okay.
have that. So I just want to make sure everyone understands, in a sense, then we're kind of, I don't even know where I stand, just to be clear, but that we're kind of choosing the lakeside cover instead of the farmer's market Village Hall cover, right? That's what it seems like.
I
Well,
was thinking we called the Village Hall cover a potential. It wasn't,
Oh, okay.
it wasn't part of the plans, it was drawn in the
as a
sketch
phase
for.
approach or something. It
Yeah,
said
that
something like
was
proposed or something like that.
It was
Okay,
proposed.
so can I put a quote mark on that? Because I think aren't we paying for site
Robert.
work? Didn't the quote that we get for Village Hall include site work for that
It did.
area?
If you want to look it up real fast,
If it
if
was
you know how
just phasing.
to do it.
Well, phasing, but also when we met with ESP,
Mhm. Tristan.
Tristan, we
McManus.
were trying to figure out how we could, if we're phasing, how we could get lower impact on impervious
Mhm.
and hopefully get rid of one of those detention ponds, because those are pricey.
Right,
But I think at the end of the day, we felt like we had to do an honest plan and say this is what we intend.
Mm.
But he said we did get points, I'll call them points, back for it being phased. In other words, they may not base our permit on
okay.
proposed, and we might still be able to get underneath the impervious. But your point about
Which is the cost
it
one.
here versus over there, I understand
Yeah.
what you're saying, but I thought this, we talked about with Parks and Greenways, but that we were phasing.
And I wasn't sure, I just wanted to be sure that it was kind of like something I noted and we brought up.
5 years from now, we could end up with, I guess it's.
Yeah, and if you look at this plan carried out a little bit further than next year, you'll see the farmer's market and amphitheater. That's been a discussion. I don't know if it'll be something y'all decide y'all are gonna do, but you'll see it carried over there for $50,000. That is just a high-level guess that I came up with. I have no clue if that's even remotely what that would cost. I just threw that out there.
Oh, why is the amphitheater idea the same as the cover for the farmer's market?
I don't know, I've
This
just
is an
heard
idea
that,
that's been
yeah.
floated for the property over there.
I just put it out here as kind
That's
of
what
a
I
thinking,
didn't know they were the
yeah.
same, okay, okay.
So next year, when we'll do this again next year, we can review it again and see if it's still something that's wanting to be floating out there, and if not, we just take it off.
I just wasn't sure. Well, then in that case, have we, yeah, that's what I was thinking of. So have we got that in here, or that's the amphitheater you're talking about? Okay.
Y'all will make that decision,
Can we
I guess,
do,
later.
can I ask that we just do slash farmer's market so that it's
Yeah.
clear? Because I think the farmer's market was floated first and that's what,
You mean where it says amphitheater?
yeah.
Yeah, we can just,
I mean, it's two,
we
I
can-
mean, it's two separate ideas.
It's two different items.
And that's not really, you really don't have to focus on that completely, entirely, like now with this approval.
Yeah.
When we go to next year, we will rediscuss all
They're
this.
two independent things. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not public mortgage legislation.
Okay, it's up to you all. I just wasn't sure how locked in you were to the cover at the farmer's market. I wasn't sure.
I mean, I
The
don't
way I
think
look
we
at
need-
it, 2 years is forever away.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Did you want to say something? I kind of interrupted you.
The only other thing I was gonna say about the CIP with the other years is one of the things that by presenting all these years out there on one spreadsheet would give you all the option. If you said to us, you know what, we don't like this one as a priority, we wanna move that out 3 years and take this one and move it in, and you wanna switch priorities. That would be your opportunity to do that on here to us is move priority.
Yep, no, I like that.
And really, we're only focused on 1920 this year. Once we go into talking about 2021 through further out, that's where we can start moving stuff around.
Well, I'll say this for the record, having looked at the way things, some of the capital improvement stuff was done in the past, this was really nice. Yeah, it's really easy to navigate.
It's a good way to keep things in the back of your mind because we hear all these things that float out there and we kind of forget about them. And so it's a good way for us to kind of keep everything uniform.
Okay.
And it's really good too if you have got a chance to look at my memo regarding Village Hall. It's really good for us to be able to forecast out and say, can we do this, can we do that, based on our future needs.
Okay, so do you want us to comment on capital improvement stuff here?
Yeah, so if y'all don't have any high-level questions on numbers or any how it's related to the budget, we can go into individual projects.
So, that's right, and I'm only gonna do 1920, because that's what's already in, that's what's in our budget coming out, right?
Yes.
So, I think I mentioned to you the other day, I'll just say for the benefit of everyone else, the Unified Development Ordinance,
Mhm.
if we're truly talking about a UDO, I mean, that's gonna be way more than 20,000. And so, it felt like, to me, that should be something that having done all the bits and pieces, I would prefer we either save enough to do it right, if that's what we're doing, or call it something different, just because, then you're saying, okay, we're just revising ordinances. So, I don't know, the way it's, and then I know you said, well, then push it to the end of that year and then save 20 in this year, and then it's 20 for next year. 40 is probably still not enough. But if that's the case, shouldn't we just push everything over to the whole amount over to 2021?
And that's totally fine if y'all want to do it. If you note in your CIP, I've got, like I said, the split years. And basically what this means, if you see the $20,000 in 19 and 20, if everybody's following that, what I'm doing there is I'm basically saying, hey, we're going to start this project towards the middle to the end of the fiscal year so that the project itself carries over to 2 fiscal years so that we can break up the payments and it's a little bit more palatable. That's what that process is doing right there. But if y'all want to push it all into 1 year, usually when you do a true UDO, they're very time consuming. It's not something that happens in 4 or 5 months.
We've done and paid for a couple of them, for processes, whether it was from the former attorney before Melanie, and also, I believe, an outsourced company that reviewed it. So I don't know if we still have that information to work off of.
Well, we could have, but things have probably changed since then anyway, so it's probably, I don't want to say it's outdated.
Yeah, and I want to clarify, that's sort of what I'm getting at, like what Kevin worked on with Donna and Lisa, that wasn't a UDO, that was just sort of a revision, reorganization, right? Yeah, and I have the outline, like you said, I don't know if it's pertinent or not, I still have all that stuff. But a UDO is actually taking all your land use ordinances and putting them together, zoning and subdivision roads. And so that's why they call it Unified Development Ordinance. But technically, I haven't seen one done anywhere for less than 100,000, 80,000 at the most.
So we don't have that now? We just
A lot of
have,
places don't have them, so it's not uncommon not to have them. It's just a good tool to have for developers. It's like a developer Bible, basically.
Well, initially, we were trying to just clean up the ordinances because it was conflicting. So there was I think we budgeted and spent close to 40.
Yeah, it was 30 to 40. It was prior to me getting on council, I think, Was that Kevin?
It kept climbing, I remember it was
How-
20,
how long ago was that?
I don't know what
It would
That
have
would've
been
been-
before, it would have been in 2015 or earlier,
And so
It was-
things have
that
changed
was
a lot.
2016.
So is this
at the beginning of
just for
2016, because it was
developers,
before
like a
me
developer's
too.
handbook?
I think it was right
Yes,
before
pretty
that.
much.
too.
Well, yeah, because
It's
now
so
we
that we
started
can,
it at the beginning.
we as staff can give this to a developer and say, these are all of our, all of our development rules in
Yes,
one
and so
common place, because what you have is ordinances that may, I don't wanna say contradict one another, but you have one that may say this, and you have one that says this, and they have to kind of piecemeal it all together and figure out.
I bet you I can explain it. So right now, for example, zoning ordinances are its own section, right? So you can't just pull
Yeah.
out zoning. You have to then go, oh, but if I'm doing a subdivision ordinance, I have to pull out the subdivision ordinance, and I have to go through the zoning, and I have to go through trees, and I have to go through lighting. And so this takes anything related to land development and unifies them into one single ordinance.
Okay, now, not because I want to make more work for staff, but do we have that much more development to do that we need to spend a whole bunch of money on this?
Can I interject here for a second too? The plan, this is why it was almost unfortunate when Lisa left, because we were like inches away from the final product that we already paid for. We just didn't get to it. And it was literally reorganizing it, and I have the where it's going from and where it's going to, all that. It would be a shame for that money that we spent to go to waste, and at the very least, then it would be organized, so that if you wanted to then pay someone else and go in through the conflicts, it would be easier.
So,
It just feels like we've invested so much in it, at least
Well,
the
that's-
first part.
so are you kind of in a nutshell saying, take what we've got, use it as a basis, give it to someone else and say, hey, this is what we had, can you fix it for 20, roughly? I mean,
Yeah,
just-
it finished up, like, we're within like the last 5 feet of the first marathon. If we can, I can hand that to you all, we can finish that.
Okay,
And then by the time, you want to spend money on the, figuring out whether things conflict or whatever, then you can spend 20,000 is probably the right amount.
on a new
But
person.
a
to go through it.
UDO is going to be way more
Well,
than that.
and again, my question is, do we have that much more development to do to spend
Yeah, that's a good point.
$80,000, $100,000? I mean, that doesn't,
Well,
again, I don't want to make more work for staff, but
I
I
don't
agree
think
with
we
Kim.
do personally,
Yeah.
but.
And I, having been on both sides of the table, having developed
Yeah.
a piece of property, to spend this kind of money to make the developer's job easier, when we could bank the money for something residents could either use or maybe pay staff overtime to look over the stuff that Mary says exists. I'd rather see where he'd pocket it than someone we don't know. If we do overtime, I don't know.
Okay. Well, I mean, we can keep the
Along
20
those
in there.
lines, but Kim's right,
If-
we don't
I mean,
have, we're 95%
yeah, I mean,
built out.
really close. So to me, it doesn't seem like it's responsible to spend a whole bunch of money. Now, 20,000, I'm fine, like, for like
Yeah.
getting it cleaned up and whatever, so I say leave it in there, I'm not saying take it out. But to do a full thing, that doesn't seem,
Maybe
So
re-
it's
relabel,
beautiful.
label,
I would love
maybe
it, but it's a
relabel
lot of money.
it.
Relabel the title as
yeah.
ordinance revision or
Ordinance
Yeah. Does that feel better?
Reorganize and revision, can we say that?
Then we gotta look at next year if we wanna keep the other.
The other 20, correct. Yeah, if
Where
it's
we're at.
needed.
So because I'm not specifically asking for action in this meeting right here,
I'm gonna-
if you want to take some notes and put it, because we will talk about this briefly and
Okay,
Why
the,
don't, can't we just change it here and then we just,
I'll just make and I'll make the motion.
we can
I'll
just
make-
change it now?
Yeah, I just did, I just changed the
No, I know, but
description
what,
over here.
do we need to say any?
it's actually written
Oh,
in there.
that's
It's
true.
Yeah, it
already.
says ordinance rewrite here, and it used to say UDO over here, so I just took out the words UDO.
So I mean, so it's like done and we can approve it as amended?
I mean, if y'all wanted to do the CIP, is what I'm talking about, just to change the title in the CIP.
Oh, I see.
I don't think we need to.
It's
I think
just
we
listed as.
should just, I would,
That's what it
But it just says clean up
I'll
the
go into
ordinance.
the
Does it?
CIP.
No, the
says
title-
Renovate and replace.
The title
Renovate.
right here
but
says,
guys, it's so easy when we go to do the CIP, we just put, with the condition that we amend, any reference to
UDO.
UDO
Okay,
to
that's fine.
code revision, that's all.
Okay,
I'm just gonna write it down as a condition.
okay, that's fine.
Okay, so the dollar amount's not changing because we'll feel like we're gonna use
Yeah.
that period on something
I agree.
related. Any other specific projects that y'all wanna talk about?
Then I'm just writing my note.
Okay.
Hold on. And then I'll go back and see. I don't think there is, but.
Seriously? birds over here.
So, capital projects, right?
And then the Parks and Greenways Master Plan, you all have vetted that. I wasn't involved in that.
Yeah, I wanted to know a little more about
Say that
that one
again?
too, sorry.
Part
The
of
Parks and Greenways Master Plan.
Oh, I haven't gotten to that. That's a completely separate one. Oh, no. Yes.
next year.
No, it is.
It's
That-
for this upcoming.
Yes, we had, so what was, I'm sorry, ask the question again.
Have you vetted it? I mean, is it
Needed.
something you're, is it needed? Is it
Yes.
something you're due once?
Yes.
And is there a benefit to village residents?
The current plan is 10 years old, so if we find some grant funding that's out there, it's not gonna be very positive for us to have a plan that's 10 years old to get funding, so,
So the idea is the plan is a tool to get funding.
yeah, and to help us to kind of get things cleaned up, because it is 10 years old.
So keep me honest here, someone who's back, but I thought that plan was like $80,000, same thing, when we had it done. If we wanted to revise it, because I think we talked about that before, it definitely needs to be updated somehow. But that full plan, and I was, because I was on the steering committee for that, we hired land design for like 80,000 and they did like a land investment, like they did the whole gamut.
And I think Rohit called land design because
So-
we pulled that out and we
so-
got in touch with them.
Yeah, what we're not trying to start from scratch and redo the entire thing.
Okay.
We're trying to use what we have, modify it, add a couple of things, maybe delete a couple of things. So we're not merely starting from nothing.
Yeah.
So
It's an
that's why
update.
we kind of
So
broke
for
it down
future
small.
councils, is it okay if I just make sure that we define that? I'll write a condition for that too. Because I'd hate them to think new Greenway plan, and, because that was like, that took us almost a year, and it involved all kinds of public input meetings, it was exhaustive. And I don't think that's what you guys are looking for.
No. We will want some public input.
Do you remember that?
We will want some public input, but not the amount of a completely new master plan.
Okay.
But I don't want to mislead you and say we're not going to have any. We will have some.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm saying, like, update and revise it, we need that for sure.
But if it honestly comes back $80,000, then that's obviously something we would bring to you and say, hey, this is 100% more than what we had budgeted for. What do y'all want to do?
But didn't Mary call and like call, I mean, I feel like she's done so much research on like getting true numbers and stuff.
She called the individual that we have do it now.
Rohit too.
And that's kind of a ballpark number that they gave us
Yeah.
for kind of
Okay.
clean it up.
Yeah.
To just clean it out.
Mhm.
So let me just go to the CIP description. 'cause
And
that's
that
what
one didn't have a whole lot in it.
There's not.
That's one of them that I put together based on some
It just
conversations
says
with.
master
Yeah.
plan. So it just needs to say update, revise.
You know why I say that? Because what'll happen is we do need it, and some council will come and see that master plan, and then they'll go and they'll get their own quotes and it'll be 80, and so they just apparently will do it. As opposed to knowing that this was just for taking the current plan and doing as
Updating
much
it,
as we
yeah.
could to
But how's
update it.
Update and revise current, is that okay?
Perfect, yep, that looks good, Chris.
Update and revise.
Update and revise current
Yep.
Parks and Greenways master plan.
Okay.
Good, Chris. Yep, we put it in there too.
Yep, I'll put it
Yay.
right here too.
Thanks, Chris.
Anything else?
Good.
You good on
I think
everything
I
else?
think that was it. Oh shoot, I went to the other one. Yeah, that was it. Ditch, I think, tree removal, we talked about before, right, RIV, Parks and Greenway, we talked, that's it.
Okay, so we have 30 minutes left before our regular session starts. I do have one more CIP that's in Greenway construction. I can talk about that now, or we can jump straight into the budget and go through detail if y'all have any specific line item questions.
It's up to you.
Preferably, let's jump into the budget. We can finish the CIP actually in the meeting.
Yeah, we should do the budget.
I just want to give you a basis of how that kind of intertwines.
Which one am I looking at now?
The big one.
The enlarged copy?
So is everybody there?
Not yet.
What are you looking for?
We've all been eating them.
Those are the best, Joe, sorry.
I don't like this. You guys
Are
know
those the
that.
ones your kids picked up too?
I don't know.
I like the coffee.
The first bag I bought, they went through the whole bag, and I never was able to bring it back, so I had to go buy another one. Taking my stash.
Y'all ready?
Yep. I'm ready.
Okay, I'm not sure.
We'll go through that.
No, we're not. I'm not sure if y'all had a chance to read the budget message or not, but it highlights some of the major changes, which is pretty much nothing. The major change is how we've changed around the POW bill, general fund, street resurfacing. That's really the only major huge change in this budget.
Okay, sorry, where were we? I was reading my motion thing.
The main change that's in this budget that's presented and the one that we're currently operating in is the way that we've changed around our street resurfacing. Well, we'll start with page 1. Just want to show you that we've presented a balanced budget. You'll see your total revenues right before this little line here. The total revenues is 1.2. And at the very bottom, your total expenditures are 1.2, the same amount. Majority of your revenues come from your ad valorem taxes, which is $604,000, with the majority of your expenditures in your general government, which this is the new way that we've changed the budget classification, so it's more departments and organizations than it is categories, which is what the state treasurer's office recommends, and it's usually utilized in municipalities across the state. And Chris, you jump in at any point in time. Do y'all have any major questions on the front page of the total?
So refresh my memory on the revenue side, sales and services are a
If you look to the
combination.
second page,
It's like beer and wine.
if you look at the next page.
Utilities.
Where was that weird?
No, not beer and wine.
It's not
Joe
beer.
asked how we get to ad valorem, which is on the
Isn't that
second
sales and
page.
services?
The detail.
Oh, no, that's
No.
not restricted.
Barn
Here.
rentals.
Barn rentals,
See?
sorry.
Non-resident parking passes, resident parking passes, community garden plots, vendor HOA
Mary.
contributions.
If you look at these categories, the detail is here. How you get that number.
Detail is there.
Yeah, that's the detail.
That totals 18,000.
Mm-hmm.
Barn rentals, non-resident parking passes, resident parking.
Barn rentals is $7,500. Well, that's proposed.
I don't have it, I don't think.
That's it.
That's less than last year. We've
Okay, so
actually
it's
been
not
running in the
sales.
$8,000 to
What do we
$9,000
get?
range.
What do we get
That's
from
unrestricted government.
Monroe?
For
From where?
sales tax?
Yeah.
Oh, that's up there in, this one, local option
300.
sales tax, 175,000.
Local option, where's that one?
It's up top under unrestricted
Restricted.
intergovernmental.
Unrestricted.
But don't we get like beer and wine and
Yeah.
utilities
We
from them
do,
too?
beer and wine comes, it's 25,000, and then utilities is 300.
Yeah, people are drinking less.
So that's all from Union
That's
County?
proposed.
Mhm.
They're-
Actually, it's not that they're drinking less. More municipalities are
In the poll.
allow, yes.
They
You know,
they have some
Waxaw
formula that they
approved it,
use to
yes.
spread it.
Well, that's beer and wine, right?
Yeah.
Mhm,
Which
that's
is
beer and
something
wine.
I'm sure everyone here has had to deal with, someone coming to them and saying, hey, we need more commercial because they think we get rich off of it. The real numbers are pretty sad.
Well, we're getting this without
Right.
commercial,
Doing anything.
we don't have anything.
Right, because everyone goes into a kitty.
It
Yeah,
goes to
that's
Monroe
right.
and then it's divvied back up,
Right, we
but
wouldn't get any more.
we wouldn't get,
Right.
So to your point though, if we had more commercial and beer and
It goes to
wine,
Monroe.
it goes into the pool too.
what you need to encourage your fellow
Except for-
constituents is to
Yes.
stay in Union County versus going to Charlotte to
Eckleburg or
to
South
go for
Carolina.
dinner or drinks or whatever. That's what I always say.
Hey, you can-
So we are still on the same page, because I have a question on this.
Yeah, page 1 and 2 are basically the same, just 2 is the detail of 1.
How come they're all dropping though? You know, it's like we,
They're not, this is just proposed.
yeah, but say, but actual this year, we actually got 514, now we're saying 500.
Because you always
Well,
go lower, right?
because,
It's
yeah,
like a
because
percentage.
you always budget a little, well, we always budget just a little bit lower than what last year's actual was, just because, if you budget more conservatively, then you
Yeah.
have the benefit of possibly having more money to spend, as opposed to if you budget more
Exactly.
aggressively, and then you're spending the money, and then suddenly you have to go, wait, stop, we're not getting as much as we thought we were gonna get.
Yeah.
If you look at, like, just for instance, look at beer and wine, right above there,
Yeah.
you'll see the total amended budget is $499, and the estimated actual is $514.
So we
We-
need 14.
That's right, 15.
15.
Because we under budgeted the revenue.
Here.
Well, and if
This
you
is what
read,
we
there's like a 50-page
amended, and this
revenue
is what we actually
memo
got, so
where
it's
these
50,000.
economists And if you read that, you read it and you go, I have no idea. So that's why you just kind of take the numbers
So
and.
we actually got 30,000 more in that whole, of them. Yeah,
The
each one
totals,
is-
Which one is 30?
Well, between the actual and the amended budget.
Under the unrestricted?
Right, because the beer and wine is 14 or 15,000 more.
No, beer and wine is only 4,000 more.
Says actual
the,
514.
the,
But
the
then
top is the
The top
totals.
is the total of that
Of
category.
those 3,
Yeah,
So about 20,000 total in that category, right?
15.
15. The top is the total number. It adds all of them up.
Oh, okay, never mind, I'm sorry,
Well-
I forgot that.
And you'll
Oh.
see, what
So,
we
yeah,
did in a
your
budget
15%.
amendment that you're gonna see later is we actually have revenues that are higher than we budgeted. And so what we were able to do is we changed our budget to increase the budget for revenues so that we could spend them.
That makes total sense.
So we had to actually, I mean, if we wouldn't have done that, we would have had to appropriate fund balance, which we were able to do and not appropriate fund balance.
So at the end of the year, just from our end of the year, budget's done and we have projected a lot lower than what we actually received, that just goes into the general fund?
That goes
balance.
into fund balance.
Goes into your savings account.
So can I go to one there's a big difference? Investment earnings? I'm not even sure what that is, but why the huge discrepancy?
I can explain that because I'm anticipating that we're gonna spend all our money on the village hall next
We
year.
won't get interest.
And we won't be earning interest on it.
Got it. I
And,
knew there was a reason.
yeah,
Okay, so it's not sitting in the bank.
it won't be after you start
Right.
spending it. Now, if, you know, if that deferred or something, I mean, we earn about $1,000 a month right now.
Okay.
But, if that drops,
What is
we'll
that?
get
Is that at
less.
1%? 2%?
No,
I'm just curious.
it's more complicated than that.
Okay.
But that's,
There's- It's more complicated.
that's a prime example of being conservative on your revenues because I mean, she's taken $10,000 away, assuming that,
We're spending the other money, we're
Yeah.
not getting interest.
Mhm.
It's because she thinks about this stuff.
any other
Doesn't just
questions
move the
on
number up.
page 1 and 2?
Nope.
So, next page?
So we're on page 3.
So salaries and employee benefits at the top?
Yeah.
Okay.
So everything here is pretty stable. I mean, we can go down line by line if y'all want to. But there's not a whole lot of changes in here. The only thing I do want to mention is we, and Chris, correct me if I'm wrong with the numbers, we pay for $700 per employee for health insurance as it stands today. Our health insurance has gone up 11%. So what I've done in this budget is I've actually taken the entire increase, the 11%, and allowed us as the village to absorb it instead of passing it on to our employees as an added
Is
benefit
that
to
just
them.
under health insurance or is it
It
on
is.
online item?
Mhm.
It's under health insurance.
So that's the $2,700 increase?
Correct.
$2,706?
For 2 employees there. No, 2, yeah, because it's just me and Barbie.
Yeah.
But it's the whole year?
It's the whole year for those 2 employees, and then you'll see in planning and zoning will be a slight increase, and then Parks and Rec will have a slight increase to reflect that.
Because those are all the, yeah, full-time employees.
I can give you the total numbers for,
No, I
across
see
the board
that,
if you need.
17,478 versus 18,7, no, that's FICA. 23,250,
Yeah.
25,956.
$2,000 roughly.
Yes.
But the overall's gone down,
Where are you looking?
right? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not looking at the right total, never mind.
Well, the top, the very
That's what it
top
was last year,
is
that's-
285 versus 312, but that's better than what I expected.
Yeah,
I
and
thought it was
remember,
gonna be higher.
and remember, this is just your general government employees, so you'll have, it's not total
It's not
employees,
Mark.
it's not Parks and Rec, it's not
It's not planning.
planning,
Planning,
it's
right.
just,
That's
No,
what
but-
I'm looking at.
I thought this is where we were picking up the biggest increases,
it is, yes, it is.
but it's not as substantial as I thought it was going to be.
Well, Parks and Rec is where you're picking up the biggest for the capital, but from operational standpoint of
No, I'm
salaries.
just talking salaries right now.
You'll see some in planning and zoning, we can talk about that when we get there. And
Okay.
remember, these also encompass a 3% increase for your employees for salary increase for next year. And that's based on your practice of, I think every other year y'all do 3% bonus. Every year after that, you'll swap years on salary increases.
Flip-flop.
Okay, so-
And we decided not to take the 3% increase for council?
I did have that in there initially, and
We were like, no.
We're good.
And
the-
And so with those salary increases, you'll have a reflective, tax increase, and so that number goes up a little bit slightly too. So that's majority of where that is.
and
So
then-
that'll go up when we add the, voucher come out.
Yeah, it's already done, it's already added in.
So we're just picking up the additional increase over 750, so it's still for the health insurance.
700, correct, yeah.
So
And a
remember,
3% increase in salary.
so remember back when we hired the planner,
Mhm.
I was asking that we kind of do like that you hopefully have time to kind of do a whole sort of reassessment of, I don't know, job descriptions, do we have what we need, are we covering it, do we need more here or more there? Just because over the years, who's doing what has gotten so mixed up. And it might end up to all be a wash. So I was just wondering, by any chance, did the new system, and I'm sorry, I didn't have a chance to do it, I just haven't. Do we know just like on employee salaries what, and employee positions? Have you taken each of the sections and added them together? Do we know what
I'm
the
not
total
sure.
expenditure is?
If I'm
So like
understanding.
administrator or clerk, collector, finance officer, finance assistant, and then taking the park employees and the park manager,
Oh,
you
and
added
to
all
see-
that stuff together?
To see the total salary increases?
Yeah.
Yes, we've got that.
Not even increase, but expenditure and then maybe.
Do you
Yes.
want me to pull it up, Christina?
Because it's under planning.
I got it right here.
Okay.
And park is under park.
And can I, while she's looking for that answer, can I tell you one more thing? One more thing that increased that we have no control over is this North Carolina retirement. We're required,
Oh, yeah,
and anybody 20 hours and over is required to be in the retirement system, and they increased the rate this year to 8.95%.
To what?
8.95%
From
7.75.
from 7.75.
Yep.
Which was different than what they had given us a 5-year plan of the increases, and they revised it this year.
And that will go up to, I think it's 11% over,
Yeah, there's-
11 cent over the course of the next 4 years, if I'm not mistaken. 11,
See, I have it somewhere.
but that's out of our control.
That's out
We
of
can't
our
do
Yeah,
anything
the
about that.
state tells us, and we just have
Well,
to.
let me just say, I'm going to chill on here, and just say that we kind of can control it, right? But to some extent, is if you don't, it says over 20 hours, is if we have people who don't necessarily want a 20-hour position, and then you don't need to save it. I'm not saying you should do that, I'm just saying it's possible to control it.
But there's not any part-time people who are in it.
Oh.
It's only full-time people.
Oh, really? So like, there's no park, I don't know, what do they call them? Park associates or anything like that? None of that?
We make sure that everybody stays under 20 hours so that we don't incur that cost.
I see.
Can you
Okay.
just repeat that real quick for him so he can hear that?
Oh, okay. So there was an increase, Robert, in the mandated contribution to the state retirement system this year. It went from 7.75% to 8.95%, and it's going to go up over the next couple of years. And Mary was just saying that one way we could control that was by keeping staff hours under 20 hours a week. But I said that we don't currently have any part-time people participating, it's all full-time people.
So when you see increases, in your total salaries, it's going to encompass those things too, because all the benefits add up to some of those increases. But to your point, your question, Mary,
Yeah.
general government has gone up 7%,
Okay.
planning and zoning 4%,
Planning and zoning. Okay.
culture, and recreation -2%.
Negative how much?
2.
And so, do you know off the top of your head what the salaries are? Or you haven't, I haven't.
They're listed in your agenda. I mean, in your budget.
No, I know, I mean, have you done that like separate on the side? If you haven't, I can do it myself real quick. I just was wondering if you didn't just have the percentages, but just what the total numbers were.
The total numbers of their salaries, it's itemized
Oh,
right
she
here.
means added all together across the departments.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't get it. I'm sorry.
The spreadsheet that you're looking at
Like
that I
if you go-
created for you, the total
Oh,
of all
7
the
plus 4
salaries.
minus 2?
Probably.
I'm not
They're
looking at it.
like 90,000 plus 51,000
Yeah.
plus
Yeah, this,
34,000 plus.
Christina.
I just
It's
don't
right
want
here.
470.
I know, but she wants them all added up.
It's okay, I'll go to.
Oh, I
I'll go
got
into
you.
my discussion.
Oh, my
Well,
gosh.
here's,
You got
yes,
it?
yes.
Okay.
I'm
It's
translating.
this number down here, Christina, that number.
Okay, sorry. I didn't understand you.
I'm trying to translate.
The percentages sound good.
324,950.
There you go. There it is.
950. All right.
Is this a negative 2% overall? Here,
Down.
can you spit that out? It looks like a negative 2% overall from last year.
From last year's actual.
Mm,
Oh, prior year budget. Yes, and that's because we changed,
planning.
Position
planning, yeah.
To
and-
both.
Planning
yeah.
and the
So we're
assistant
down
planner.
2% right now.
From actual, but
From actual last
that's
year.
that's misleading because actual could
Mhm.
mean that we've had vacancies and we just didn't spend it because we had vacancies.
Mhm.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
yep. That's what I was checking with the yeah, that's right.
Sorry, I wasn't following you. Sorry.
Hey, how are you?
All right,
Good.
so
Got that answered. Next questions? Or which page are we
so
on now?
we're still in general government.
Oh,
And
sorry.
Yeah, just finished, we'll be done in about 10 minutes.
so on professional services, I have incorporated the Chris and I have incorporated the monthly retainer for the new legal attorney, and we've estimated around $5,000 per month in hourly fees. Now, obviously, some months could be 2, some months could be 7, but overall, we hope that it averages out. We have that budgeted. We've got the new auditor amount budget. We've also got the new website in here budgeted.
That's the,
Website redesign under professional services.
under professional services.
We also have some slight bit of money for transcription services. I don't intend on using it, but it's in there in case we need it so Barbie doesn't steal my money anymore.
I am not going to be stealing any money.
And
It-
next
I
year's an
assure you of
election.
that.
I was joking, but
I know you are.
personnel policy is currently over 10 years old, so we definitely need to revise that.
Can I ask a question?
We're on
She's
General
like in the
government,
middle
professional
of that page.
services, I think, right?
Yeah.
Oh, geez, I got
Page
it,
3.
sorry.
So under website design, you guys know I want that for you for a lot of reasons, and I know that's the one that offers the platform you really need to look, that you need.
Yeah, talk it
It just, that 20,000 just seems so painfully high. If, not saying, but say, somewhere along the line, we end up being able to get the right platform, and we could get the price down. This is almost more a technical question with any of these. Is that the budget is something we can be lowered later,
Yeah,
right? I mean, if
yeah.
we find an alternative, it's not,
We don't have to
Yeah,
spend
but
20,000 if we
just
get
keep
it
in mind,
cheaper.
you can spend that over fiscal years. You don't have to spend that all at one time.
is this new website just design, or is it design and like the
The whole
monthly
thing.
costs?
It's the whole thing.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
everything.
It's
Oh,
everything.
monthly
It's
cost?
all inclusive.
It's
Yeah.
like-
I
It's
thought it
all
was just
inclusive.
20 for design.
Yes.
No,
You
and then,
weren't around for
No.
some of the,
Okay, it was
No.
coming already.
well, I think it's went back even longer. Barbie started researching this.
we really talked
Yeah,
about it, really talked about it in the fall.
Yeah, I saw,
Yeah.
I saw them because I went with them through Barbie and I told her which
Yeah.
one, and it was the highest one, but it was the one I think she was looking for. It was just, I couldn't, wasn't clear to me what the design cost was at that time, if you remember, and what our monthly fees would be. And so if this 20 is the whole thing,
And it's like going in and making changes, right, Barbie? Like it's
Yes.
the whole,
Yeah,
like,
that's everything.
the
Their
whole
training is all
servicing of it.
included in all of that.
okay,
It's- it's
this one, they were charging you every time you wanted
Every
to
time.
call and do that.
Every
and
single
do-
time.
That's crazy.
Every
Okay.
single time.
Okay, just want to be 100%
Yes.
sure. All right. Anything can be amended lower later.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, that's just the
Exactly.
most we can spend.
Say that again.
Unless we
What's in
do
the
a
budget
budget
is the
amendment.
most we can spend. Unless we do a
Without
budget.
amendment.
Okay,
Yes.
so but everything that's in the budget, the administrator staff is authorized to spend,
Correct.
correct?
Well, in coordination with the procurement policy.
And I was just looking at that, it requires 3 informal quotes. I need to go back I would need to go back and look at the motion that was made during the time that we talked about the website, because we did have
How to-
quotes, so I need to see if we can go back and use some of that same motion, so it doesn't have to go before you all, but
Again.
if y'all want it to, we can definitely do that, but,
What's that? Oh.
Okay. I mean, at
We
the
can
end
do
of
good
the day,
about
I
asking
don't
us if we want
yeah,
to
yeah.
know more
yeah.
detail about something, so I suspect that'll carry over.
Okay, just that amount, but I understand why we're doing it. I
You
just
find
hope
more?
that it's a good system
She's
for
right.
Hiding
a
it from me.
while.
So the new auditor amount is in there with the recommendation that y'all had at one of the last council meetings.
That's the same one we looked at, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
The policy rewrite, like I just mentioned, the personnel policy, and I just threw a number out. Maybe
I'm
Mr.
gonna be
Spencer can do it.
I'm sorry to be a pain. Why, do we have to hire someone to do that?
We don't, no. We can get him to do it if we can absorb it into our legal fees, but I didn't want to kind of earmark myself to spending his legal fees on stuff that we could hire someone out
What
to
is
do.
Because in the past, I think all we
Personnel
did
policy,
was,
right.
the School of Government puts out, like, what's his name? Bell, I forget his first name.
Fleming Bell.
Yeah, he would actually put, Fleming Bell, that's right. He would actually put out a suggested, personnel policy, then we'd amend it, and then the internal attorney would look it over to
Yeah,
make
I
sure.
mean, we can definitely do that when we get to the point of starting
We're not
that
talking about a
project.
professional person hired.
Oh, I mean, we probably could with $6,000, but that's not something that we're gonna do tomorrow, so we can bring this up for a discussion in a subsequent meeting, and y'all can kind of give us some action as to how you want to do it. That's totally
More of a
fine.
placeholder.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I've increased ICMA dues for myself. They were massively under budget last year, and City of Albemarle actually helped y'all out on that one because they paid for those. So that's an increase substantially. I've increased
I didn't hear it.
International City Managers Association dues.
Oh, association.
I've increased some of the travel and training for everyone here, pretty good. I've got some budget retreat or cancel retreat, however, whatever we want to call it, increase here, and that's just so we can potentially have maybe some facilitators in if we want to do that. Doesn't mean we have to, it's just an idea that maybe we can throw out at some point in time if y'all are amenable to that. The money's there. We don't have to though. And then you'll see a pretty substantial increase in administrator discretion funds. And that's surely because we had I don't want to say we had a surplus, but we did, and we had to plug it somewhere, so that's where it is. We can move it out, but I didn't have a specific project to put it towards. We just put it there, and we would move it at some point in time if we needed to somewhere else.
So this is more understanding than I have. What would it be? Give me some examples of what it would be used for.
This year, I use it on transcription services. I mean, that's a good example.
Okay.
If we needed some more money for event planning or something, and we wanted to pull some from there, I wouldn't spend a ton of money without letting y'all know what it was for. But it's there
Or
because I had to place it
If
somewhere.
we needed to buy, like, we have some money budgeted to replace computers, but if something happened and we had already bought the new computers and we had a problem where somebody's computer died and we had to buy one, she could use it to buy.
It just seems like the 5,000 I think is what I've seen before in the past. 15 just seems like a lot, and
And we can move 10,000 out. Y'all just tell me where you want me to put it. It's totally fine.
I don't think that you're gonna go out and arbitrarily spend $15,000 without telling us what you're doing.
I'm gonna just say what I've said before a million times over. It hasn't. When I look at these things, I don't look at who's in the position. I'm just thinking about, just in general. It's never tied to one person. I just, even from experience, if someone said, "Hey, Mary, you have $15,000 to spend," I'm sure. Yeah, I don't know. It just seems like an awful lot of money. At least based on what the councils in the past have done. Councils in the past have been watching over everything, and from what I understand, this current, right? Tell me if I'm wrong, but you're saying that once the budget's approved, you guys can go ahead and just do what you need to do with it.
That's correct. Yes.
So if you have a recommendation,
I don't know. I just want. Well, does anyone else agree? I don't know. It doesn't sound like I'm the only one.
I mean, I'm fine leaving it at 15.
And keep in mind too, not to say this is going to happen, but at any point in time, and you can interject here, if there was any type of wrongdoing that was going to be had anyways, we have the authority to move money amongst line items regardless.
Mhm.
So I mean, if I'm not saying that just to say it, but
So what you're saying is.
So what you're saying is you can move money whether, we tell you can or not.
Got it. So noted. So I guess we just leave it there.
I'm leaving it.
All right. We'll just leave it.
But I also
Oh.
acknowledge we all have things, and this
Yeah.
isn't my thing, so if you want to.
and I'm okay moving it if y'all want to. We do have 2 minutes before the regular meeting starts.
So training courses, that's any committee, including, did we talk about doing something for council
Mhm.
related to the Board of
Quasi-judicial.
Adjustment, judicial. I think that's what we talked about, right?
Right.
We never did anything. with that.
No, we're
We
actually
never
still
went
working,
there.
we're working on that with, Waxaw and COG right now.
Okay,
So
so
we're
that's
still-
in
We
the
need some
training
training
courses?
on that.
Yeah, and
Okay,
that's,
so that's
And you
not
think
even-
4,000 is
No, it
enough?
is.
well, I put 4,000 in here, but that's for all boards and commissions, for administrator, for, anyone in general government. For
And that
the
doesn't
clerk, for the,
Because if anything, if I was gonna take any money from the 15,000, I would move that into the training course.
Well, see, and the beauty of this budget is within general government, if we need to, we can move things around within general government.
Right, so you don't necessarily.
Because it doesn't require a budget amendment to do that.
Okay.
So that could be the use of the discretionary funds, is that we would move that down to pay for additional training.
Right, okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
We're almost there.
All right, 1 minute.
I'm fine with this page.
Okay, I was gonna go to
You
Nancy.
are, but you're welcome.
I just think, I mean, if we continue to be diligent about not overspending, then it comes out later at the end of the year. I don't know that we're gonna need all of it, but I guess it's better to plan. I'm not really sure.
Per our, I don't know if it's
I'm
a
waiting for you
procurement
guys to
or
give me
personnel, but do administrators and staff have an imposed limit
we have
per
a,
item?
Thought it was 5,000.
no, not per item, whatever's in our budget authority, which is what this is, we have the authority to spend within those line items. The budget ordinance itself does give a specification as to how much you can move without authority. I don't know the language off the top of my head,
It's
but
$5,000, but it excludes salaries.
That's just moving it, not spending
Right.
it.
Well, no, it would be
If
to
you're
move
moving
it
to
to
spend
spend it, like if
Same.
some,
Okay, gotcha.
yes, to move it to spend it, but like we can't put it into salaries, we can't touch public safety, there's like things, it's at this, on the second page of your budget ordinance, what we can't do.
usually.
And then we have to tell you, I'm sorry, then we have to tell you about it at the next month, so if you weren't happy about it, you'd get the chance to say something then.
And I usually think of budgets as two lines. You got your salaries and your operating expenses for employees here. You got all your other stuff here. Those lines never cross.
Gotcha.
So from the bottom line down, you should be able to move stuff around. From the top line up, you should be able to move stuff around in there. Does that make sense? Okay.
But again, if it's your thing, just pick a spot. Tell us. I mean,
It's right in the light.
we're all open.
Pick a spot?
If you want,
wanna
you
take
want
that?
that change,
I just,
Well, you know
It's gotta go
what,
somewhere.
I
Go ahead
guess,
and take-
I don't know,
I
do
just-
we have time to keep going? I don't.
well, we can go ahead and start the meeting and then jump into, we have to do a public hearing for it anyway, so, for the budget. So we can continue this discussion. We don't have to rush through it.
Okay,
so you can think about it.
okay, yeah, I mean, there's some things I hate to bring up now. I don't know, I hate to do it right at the edge of a meeting. So-
Yeah, it's fine. We'll bring it up in the middle of the budget meeting. It's totally okay. I don't want y'all to feel rushed.
Oh, there's one.
Okay.
So that was on page 3.
All right,
So I don't know if you want to.
yeah, we're taking.
Well, we need to.
Are you you need to adjourn this
Action item
meeting?
Before we close this meeting,
We're not taking any action.
No, you'll do it at the public hearing.
so have a motion to adjourn. All those in favor? All right. Give a
5-minute break.
2-minute break
2-minute
for
break.